And welcome in, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. Coming to you today from Cumberland, Maine. My name is Benjamin Kennedy. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to talk today about the Florida Panthers, Eastern Conference champions, getting ready for a Saturday kickoff with the Edmonton Oilers for the Stanley Cup final. Uh, going to be an absolutely epic series. I can't wait for this thing to get started. Uh, I'll really encourage anybody who's not a big hockey fan or maybe more of a casual fan, watch these games. This is going to be a little bit beauty, a little bit beast when you talk about guys like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and these just amazing goal scorers going up against this gritty, structured, aggressive, tough team in Florida. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We're going to focus though today on Florida. In a couple of days, I'll have a breakdown of the Edmonton Oilers as well. And, we'll give them a little bit of a look. But over the past year, of course, living in the market that I do, a lot of Bruins fans and a lot of salty Bruins fans that are just like, is this Florida team really legit? Was that run? Was that just like a lucky run that they had last year? Uh, no, absolutely not. It wasn't. Uh, we should have seen this coming from this team, and I think some people probably did. But when you start to break down the last few seasons and what Florida has done, this is nothing. Not only is it not a fluke, we should have absolutely expected them to kind of be getting this sort of dominance that they have here in the Eastern Conference. Over the last 5 years, I mean, we know what they did this year. They won the Atlantic 52, 24, and 10, 110 points in the final. Last year, they were 42, 32 and 8 with 92 points. Snuck in there. Pittsburgh losing those two games at the end. Sure, maybe they got a little lucky, but go all the way to the Cup final and lose to Vegas. 2021 and 22, Presidents winners 58, 18, and 6 for 122 points. They do lose in the second round to Tampa. Year before that, 20 and 21, they were 37, 14, and 5, 79 points. They do lose in the first round to Tampa once again. And then going all the way back to 1920, 35, 26, and 8 for 78 points. Lost in a qualifying round to the New York Islanders. That's back when we were playing in the bubble. That's 5 years in a row making the playoffs, 5 years of winning records. Guys, this was not a fluke. This is not a fluke. They've been right here for a good while. Even the year that they beat Boston there last year, the year before that, they were Presidents winners. So, sure, they had a bad first half, but the second half of that year, they were one of the best teams in hockey. Looking at what Florida's done in the playoffs so far has also been just really, really impressive. When you think about the three teams that they've had to beat, starting in Tampa Bay and Andre Vasilevsky in net. Then you go to Boston. You had to face Jeremy Swayman, one of the best goalies in the league. You beat him, then you go to play the Presidents winners in New York and the Rangers, and you have to face Igor Shesterkin, who may be the best goalie in the league. And he beat all of them. This is probably the most difficult path that they could have taken to this run. And I think probably the most difficult path any team had this year in the playoffs. I think that's pretty impressive. Talking about how challenging it is, though, to be the loser the year before and to come all the way back and get back to the cup final, it just doesn't happen. It's very, very rare. I got to give credit to Boomer Gordon, who is the host of the Point radio show on NHL radio. You can hear him every day, 1 p.m. He actually did this research. Thank you, Boomer, because I was actually going to look this stuff up, and I was really thankful that he put it out there. But over the past 39 years, we've only had two other incidents where a team has lost a Stanley Cup and then been able to go all the way back to the Stanley Cup the next year. It happened for the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2009. They beat Detroit, having lost to Detroit in 2008. That's back, of course, when Detroit was in the West. From there, you have to go all the way back to 1984 with the Edmonton Oilers. They beat the Islanders in 84, having lost to the Islanders in 83. Guys, this is hard. What Florida's doing is hard. Uh, in both of those cases, Pittsburgh and Edmonton, they both won, so that's maybe some good juice for Florida. The last time a team went into back-to-back finals and lost both was in 77 and 78 with the Bruins losing both of those series. So this is just Not something you see happen very often. When you go back just through the last 26 seasons, a team that lost the Stanley Cup final, and only 8 incidents did a team make the playoffs and win just one round in the playoffs. So you think about that. Let's just do the math, and that's a very low percentage there. But you hear about this, and you hear about this in other sports, not just hockey, that how hard it is to go through that playoff run and lose. The physical toll you take. You're probably playing through some injuries. The emotional toll of being so close to your goal and not finishing it, knowing you have to go through a whole other preseason and go through a whole other rigorous regular season to get back there. It's challenging, um, just challenging, guys. So I give Florida just a ton of credit for what they've done, to this date, to this point. You know, take a little step back though and look at the Atlantic Division over the past 6 seasons. You guys can actually win some bar bets with this one, but over the past 6 seasons, can anybody name me how many times the Atlantic Division has represented the Eastern or been represented? I should say uh, in the Stanley Cup final over the past 6 seasons. I'll wait. Some people might say six. Nope. Answer's actually seven. How is that possible? We only had 6 years. You said 6 years, right? 6 years? Yeah, I did. But we've had seven. We've had seven. It's been a very dominant division for quite some time. But you go back to 2019, obviously, Boston Bruins. 2020 was Tampa. 2021 is the catch year. That was the bubble year where you had Tampa and the Montreal Canadiens. That they were part of that Northern Canadian division that was created during COVID. So you had Tampa, Montreal, an All Atlantic division in the final that year. Tampa in 22, and of course we know Florida in 23 in this year. So really a dominant stretch here for that Atlantic Division. Of course, before that, you had Pittsburgh, you had Washington winning cups. So, the Metro has been a little while now since they've had any representation, but good on that Atlantic Division. Paul Maurice, I mentioned him a couple videos ago. A coach I really respect and um, really think just when you look at his resume, it's pretty impressive. You've got both of these coaches, Maurice and your coach there in Edmonton, both have Hartford ties. Maurice started with the Hartford Whalers back in I think it was 94, 95. Um, Over 1,800 games coached in the regular season, 130 games coached in the postseason. This will be his third crack at the Stanley Cup final. Uh, just been, I just love his demeanor behind the bench. I love his demeanor at the podium. You know, they do interviews in game now, and whether it's Emily Kaplan or TNT analysts, they interview him, and he's like, "We're fine. Oh, we're down by a goal. We're fine. We're playing good hockey. We're okay. We're okay." You see him cracking jokes in the post game, even after losses. He just never seems to get rattled. There's just always that kind of quiet confidence with him. Yeah, every once in a while he has to blow up and get his team kind of riled up, but there's just this demeanor that he seems to coach with, just this calm, and that resonates throughout the locker room. It resonates on the bench. You can see it. This team absolutely plays in that same style that his coach is putting out there, and I think that more coaches should probably take note of that. But I think he's really impressive, and his post game news conferences are just they're fun to watch. Don't miss them. Florida plays. They do play an aggressive style of hockey, though. We all know that. It feels chaotic. They dump the puck and they just kind of create that mass chaos in and around their net. And one thing is that the bulk of their shots you'll see do come from inside the dots. They're not taking a lot of shots from the point. They create that chaos and they're getting shots in kind of 15, 20 feet and in on the goalie. And that's what really gives them so much success and can create that chaos. But it's not just chaos. It's systematic. Um, and they play, it's a kind of a standard they play with. There are times when you're trying to get the puck out of the zone. I mean, look at what the Rangers and Bruins both tried to do. Getting pucks out, and even if you get it out of your D zone, Florida's right there tipping the puck. in the neutral zone, not allowing you to make a full change, getting the puck right back in, keeping that pressure right on you, just almost like a spin cycle, like just not able to get out of the way. And they lean on you. Starting right from puck drop. You got Bennett and you got Kachuk, Barkov, these guys out there just kind of leaning on you, and they just kind of lean on you through the first period, through the second period. You get, 10 minutes to go in the third period. You're just like, get off of me. Just get it's almost like it's like your little sibling that just won't leave you alone. Like just go away. But they don't. Just like your little sibling, they don't. They just continue to just pester you and kind of pound you. And it really wears teams out. They did it to Boston. Um, they did it to the Rangers, which was really impressive to see. But through these 17 games so far, there's only been 3 occasions where they've given up 30 or more shot attempts. And when you think about the types of teams they've played here, good offenses, especially in the case of Tampa and New York, really good offenses. That's really impressive. Looking at their PK in the regular season, their penalty kill, they were at 82.5%. So far in the playoffs, they're at 88.2. So they definitely picked up their game. And it's even more impressive when you look at where the power plays ranked for the teams that they played against. So Tampa Bay, they were the number one power play team in the league in the regular season at 28.6%. Boston, yeah, not quite as good, but still at 22.2%, 14th in the league. So as much as us Bruins fans want to, lament um, some of the struggles on the power play, Boston, it wasn't like they were 28 to 29. They were still kind of middle of the pack. And the Rangers were number three in the league at 26.4%. And in particular, so much of the Rangers offense is fed off that power play. They are just so electric. And the fact that the Panthers did what they did to that team, I thought was um, pretty impressive. If that doesn't open your eyes and make you realize that this isn't a fluke, let's look at how they've neutralized some of the best players in the league through these 3 playoff series. You have through the 3 series, they've faced Nikita Kucherov, David Pastrnak, and Panarin from New York. These are 3 of the top 6 scorers in the league all year. Kucherov in 5 games, 0 goals, 7 assists for 7 points, 144-point scorer in the league this year. David Pastrnak, 6 games, he had 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points, 110 points in the regular year. And Panarin, through 6 games, they only allowed him 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points, 120-point scorer in the regular season. Now, guys, I'm not great at math, but that's 17 games, giving up only 14 points to 3 of the top 6 goal scorers or point scorers in the league. Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. I'm also kind of impressed with um, just how they've kind of gone to work this year in terms of like their business like approach. You go back to last season, they sneak into the playoffs, not sure they were going to get in, and then they beat Boston, and then they just roll. They roll right until they hit Vegas, and of course they were so beat up at that point. And it's still a full value to Vegas on that win, but their approach has been much more business-like. They expected to be here this year, where last year maybe they didn't feel or expect it quite so much. Um, you're not seeing them get into these skirmishes as often after whistles. It's still a little bit, but not quite like what we saw a year ago. And through that, they're probably not taking as many penalties. I haven't looked at the penalty numbers, but it just feels like in watching these games, they're not taking nearly as many penalties as they did last year through the playoffs. So I just think you know that comes from coaching. I think that comes from culture and from a team just playing together. Um, and another real advantage for them, and it's an advantage that Vegas had as well, is that they can roll 4 lines out there. And you've seen that. That's part of that wearing you down effect that we talked about earlier. They don't have to shorten their bench. Yeah, you have a little bit of a drop off in talent when you go from line 3 to line 4, but not that significant. And because they're all playing in that system, that same structure, you can roll 4 lines and feel like we can just go out and lean on these guys and just beat them up. Vegas had that advantage last year where they were very very deep, and that's what it takes to win a cup. You have to be deep, you have to be healthy, and you have to get some good goaltending. Now Bobrovsky, I feel like has been good so far. I think he's been quite good at times, but I also think just their defensive structure in front of him has been so good. They haven't left him out to dry very often. I mean, you're a Bruins fan and you watch through this season, you saw a number of times where the Bruins defense just left Allmark and Swayman out to dry. You're not seeing that in Florida. And so it allows Bobrovsky to have that time and space to be able to see pucks and to stop the puck, see puck, stop puck, right? He's been able to do that very effectively. Now, like I said, we're going to get into Edmonton in another video, but Edmonton has not yet played a team quite like Florida in these playoffs. No disrespect to Dallas, no disrespect to Vancouver or the LA Kings, all very good teams. Um, but they haven't played this type of aggressive, gritty type of team like they will in Florida. Now, on the same point, Florida hasn't quite played an offense like Edmonton. You've got two of the very best scorers in the league in McDavid, 132 points, and Draisaitl with 106. We talked about the Rangers, and their power play being really good. This Edmonton power play is just electric. I think they're clicking at like a 37 or 38% effectiveness here in the playoffs so far. You talk about Florida maybe not taking as many penalties. That's going to be so important for this team going into this matchup here starting on Saturday. Going to be really interesting to see what style wins. You've got again the elite of the elite in Edmonton in terms of offense and goal scoring, and you've got this, like I said, just kind of pound you in the face, pound you for 60 minutes style from Florida. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it. Um, who do you have in the Cup final? I'd love to hear your comments down below. Please feel free to leave those comments. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not really sure where I'm going yet. I'm kind of, leaning a little bit Florida. I've probably watched more Florida games than I have Edmonton. I mean, being on the East Coast, some of those Edmonton games starting at 10:30 at night, it's kind of sleepy time for us here on the East. But kind of leaning Florida, but nothing would surprise me in this series. I just hope it's a good series. I kind of feel like, you know, one goal games, I probably favor Florida. I think Edmonton has that style where they can beat you, 5-2, 5. It wouldn't be surprised if you see like a real crooked number in one of these games, like a 5-1 or a 6-1 for Edmonton. But I don't think that's going to rattle Florida all that much. In close games, I think I kind of like Florida. I think they have an edge in net. I think they have an edge a little bit defensively, although again we'll get into Edmonton later. They've had some good performances with their defense, starting with Bouchard. Um, that should be fun. So please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a good start here. Uh, as far as support goes, thank you so much for that. And we will talk to you all again very, very soon. Have a nice